Mic check, 1 2 1 2. It's Georgette.
And I'm Robo Snap. Oh, yeah.
And this is Black and Nuanced Podcast, dispelling the ideas that all Black people are monoliths because we're not. We bring our varying perspectives to pop culture, relationships, and things we go through that we can't always name. Welcome to Black and Nuanced, powered by Excitement Radio. So in the last episode, and I was talking about this, even promoting the Valentine's Day episode, I said I have to have an intervention with my co-host Snap. You know, we're 25, now this is 26, we're 26 episodes in, and, and Snap has been very vocal about the trauma and things that he's dealt with and just really kind of releasing. And I just was like, Snap, you should look into therapy. And for the first 90% of the episode, Snap was like, yeah, nah, but I think Snap is at a point in his life where there's just a lot of things that you get to a point where you just can't hold these things in anymore, Snap. And so I have a special guest on that, this episode's not going to just be about Snap and the intervention, but just Black mental health and trauma, but especially with Black men because of masculinity and you all believing that you all have to act a certain way and how that actually really affects you. And so I thought it was going to be helpful to have a professional on the line to do that. So I want to welcome our guest, Norman. Hi, Norman.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain.
Now, can you please introduce yourself and your practice and all that jazz?
Okay, well, my name is Norman Stovall, and I am out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I have a private practice called Resurgence Family Preservation Services. So we do a lot of work with individuals, couples. We do a lot of therapy with parenting, children, trauma issues, personality disorders, all kinds of things like that. And I've been here in private practice for about 10 years, and I happen to be the only Black male therapist in private practice as long as I have in the area that I serve.
Yes, Black man. Okay,
Amazing.
I love that. And I was told that you also went to Norfolk State University. I know I went there for undergrad as well.
Behold the green and gold.
Okay. I know I be having my qualms with NSU sometimes, Norman. I'm not gonna front, but
I hear you.
but I love the NSU connection, and so. Really starting off, and Norman, you and I kind of debriefed about this, a few days ago, and Snap, I made sure and asked his permission, but, Snap has been very vocal on a lot of these episodes, but the first thing that I noticed with Snap was his childhood trauma and how a lot of that stuff was just permeating his life, right? So he didn't necessarily come out and say, like, I've had a lot of childhood trauma, but I would ask Snap something, and then he would connect the dots to something that happened when he was younger, and then I would see certain things, and I'm just like, Snap, oh my gosh. And in my mind, because I'm the complete opposite, right? When I was younger, my parents never shut me up, right? Like I was very vocal about certain things, and then I meet Snap, great guy, energy, you just love being around him.
Right.
But the struggles, it pains me to even see that, there's a lot of fear of just whether it's a fear of authority and not necessarily like police, but like a fear of authority that was, instilled in him because of the parents. And then that permeates and projects in other different ways. But I'm going to let Snap talk because I really want him to really get into his own life and just kind of building with you. And then the other thing I want to get into beyond Snap is, some of your personal experiences and relating to him as a Black man, with the things that are put on you all in society and even coming from slave days. Like y'all are constantly emasculated in the media and it's so common practice that it's almost like it's second nature, which is unfortunate, and how to build from there and how to really just kind of break down these stigmas and just address the toxic masculinity that has been plaguing our Black men and just, Black and brown community in general. I know that's a lot, but,
No, it's not really. It's really not a lot. It's not. You'd be surprised. I wanted to say something to my brother real quick now.
Yes.
Snap, listen. One of the things I like to say is I really don't do like doctor-patient thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of us as two brothers sitting down having a conversation. One's not better than the other. There is no judgments or anything like that. Everybody got a little dirt under their fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just come from that place,
Okay.
I love that. Yeah. So, Snap, So we were talking offline before you called in, and I said, I know one thing that Snap was like, man, I don't even know where to begin. I was like, Snap, yes, you do. Like, we were just having one storyline before. I feel like maybe because for Snap it's so much, and I think in Snap, I'll let you speak after this, but I think a lot of it with Snap Norman is he just does not want to revisit the pain. But I said the only way you're going to be able to heal is if you address it. And you and being in your mid 40s and this pain has been going on for over 40 years. That's a long time, But Snap, I'm gonna let you, speak.
So for me, one of the issues is when I do revisit some things in the past, Norman, I do tend to get watery eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And so a bit of that toxic masculinity for me was, this is not supposed to be happening. I know they say, men cry in the dark or men cry behind closed doors, but I tried to fight that, So a lot for me was I hold a lot of things in, and instead of pretty much trying to face them head on, for me, avoidance is the best thing possible. And so, but for a long time, I didn't understand that about me. It literally took somebody to point that out to me and say, in situations, growing up, I had I grew up in a single parent home, myself and my brother. My mom raised us for the most part. She was in the New York City Police Department system. So, me not understanding her struggles as a black woman growing up, coming up into the workforce and how they would treat her and things like that. I didn't understand that, because I wasn't taught. It's not like she sat down and said, this is what's going on in this country related to black people and things like that. So for a lot of what I did as a youngin', I just went in thinking that everything was normal, So, even the way I was raised, some of the teachings, teaching for me sometimes wasn't, hey, we're going to do this. And then if you don't get it right, let's just do it again. Okay, let me try another way. No, for me to get it right, it usually took a couple of slaps in the face or a punch in the mouth or something like that. And I understand, I didn't understand her frustration then. I didn't understand what was going on. But a part of that was, again, if she couldn't get across to me, eventually, the call would come to my dad. And then he was never in the house. When he did show up, he showed up with a leather belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
So, and so, I try not to revisit those. I just try and say what I said moving forward in life was, I'm never going to do to my kids what was done to me as a child. So to this day, I can't say that I've ever really spanked my children. I can't say I did any of that. But again, it's because of the past experiences. And I can tell you right now, Norman, even talking about it, it gets me emotional. Like, again, I feel my eyes trying to water up.
But so, let it out, Snap.
Listen, yeah, let me just jump in for a second. First of all, don't even, let me explain a little something. So the way they do counseling on TV and the way it really works, the way it should work is, they'll have the patient doing all the talking. You're laying on the couch, you're doing all the talking, and the counselor's taking all these notes. I've never had a session like that. The way that this works is, one, I don't need to generally dive back into your childhood that way. I don't. So think of it like this. If I worked at minor key mufflers and did oil changes, right? Mm-hmm. You're only going to bring a certain amount of cars, and the oil pans are going to be situated in only so many ways. After a while, you're not even going to think about it. You're going to hear people's story, and certain things are going to register. Even when you were talking, certain things just started registering, and I'm not one to just visit trauma just for the sake of doing it. There has to be a purpose, a reason. Mm. So what you're talking about and what I'm hearing is, first of all, your mother's on the New York City Police Department in the 1970s. A black woman?
Yes, but it wasn't the 70s. I'm going to go with 80s.
The 80s?
Uh-huh. So 80s.
Okay, so we'll go with the 80s. Right. Not much of a difference.
Right. There we go. Right.
Yeah, not much of a difference. But, even if you did that now, so you've got those triple threats. You've got black woman, male-dominated job.
Right.
prove yourself.
And that's what I didn't understand.
Oh, my
Right.
goodness. Yeah. So now, even before then, and I don't know if I mentioned it, I am a Christian psychotherapist. Doesn't mean I'm going to preach you to death.
There you
I'm
go.
not, man. I don't have holy water. I don't have any of that.
Bless you.
I'm not trying to do that. That's for the local pastor.
There you go.
But what I do is I use like biblical sensibilities to explain situations. And it's worked out really well. You heard me make the comment, we all have dirt under our fingers. So most of the time, we place people at these high levels of trust, and we're all failed human beings, all day, every day, right? So, we have these ideas of what mom should be and what dad should be, and for a lot of us, those ideas never get met. They never get met. We idealize them, I guess you can say. And so when they start to show up as less than that, you talked about your dad not being in the home. And for a young man, that's going to be instrumental. It's going to be instrumental in the day-to-day things. So normally when this comes up, there can be, in fact, I would say there's insecurities when either parent isn't there. So you're going to be dealing with insecurities. Am I doing the right thing? All of these type situations. And then the other thing is when you talk about masculinity, we all I think a lot of us have gotten this version of masculinity, like you mentioned, not crying, you got to be tough and all of these things that, and honestly, your mother could actually have been working on these things too, She has to be tough on her job. She wants you to be tough, And then we never know the frustrations that are there from single parenting, When we get older, there could be resentments from having to carry the majority of the load, things like that. I'm hearing a lot of those things right there, but I'm gonna give you more time to talk. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing so far.
Right, and what I can tell you is, from my experiences, I don't think it made me tough. It made me more fearful than anything. And I take that, and I'll give you an example. I was at the job one day, and my superior came to me with an issue that she thought I did wrong. And I knew I wasn't in the wrong. And so I explained to my superior, who is a female, that I wasn't in the wrong. This was the right thing to play. It was something that I played on air. And
no, you didn't play it. It just played on air on somebody else's end. Yep.
And so I knew that I was in the right. But when she came through that door the way she did, finger pointed, saying this was wrong and blah, 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 I kind of just let her talk. I soaked it in. And when she left, I was like, I know I'm not wrong. And so I tried to do the rechecking, and then I confirmed. I knew I wasn't wrong. I knew she was wrong in this situation. But I refused to take the next step to go back and argue that with her. I wasn't going to argue that with her. If this was how you felt, I'm going to just leave you that way. And unfortunately, Georgette just so happened to be in the same room and knew that I was in the right. And she decided to challenge it. And I said to her, I don't think you should do that. Like, just let it be. And she insisted on getting it looked into.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure. And with that, Norman, the biggest thing for me was we knew we were right and she misheard it. So I wanted to at least let her know that she misheard it.
Sure.
Versus letting it linger. And Snap was like, no, you got it. I'm not doing it. I was like, well, I don't want her to think that they're playing the wrong thing because it's a syndicated show. She wanted to make sure we're catching things, and I just wanted to make sure she knew it wasn't an error on our end. But what it ended up being was so minute. She had the days of the week mixed up. That's all it was. It wasn't anyone on our end. It wasn't anyone on their end. She just thought it was one day when it was another day. And so, but that's one small thing to Snap's point of being fearful of. Yeah,
I totally accepted that in my lifestyle, so that. I don't know. It's not that I don't want to deal with the stress, but I've accepted things like that to where I won't challenge it, and it's fear. A lot of things are fear, and I hate to say that.
No, but it's true. So I mean, it's a defense mechanism. It's a defense mechanism to decrease any further hurt, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
You put the brakes on. There's no more hurt, and then you absorb the hurt. Now, what you do with the hurt, we haven't even talked about. We may not talk about on air, but
right.
but you want to stop the pain immediately so you wouldn't assert yourself. How often do you challenge yourself on that now that you recognize it?
I don't. I try not to. I mean, if I try and make things as easy as possible in life for me, I try and live a simple life. I have a relationship. I've been in a relationship for 10 years with a young woman who, for the longest time, I fought the ideas of marriage. But, now the outside pressures that come in, like, this is how people see us, it's like that kind of thing. And it's like, but, not that I don't love her, not that I don't want to eventually take the step. I just felt that I wasn't ready. I saw myself, you know what it was? And I'm going to be honest with you.
I know what you're going to tell me.
I don't think I was qualified to be somebody's husband. I don't think I had what it takes to be somebody's husband, the responsibility that comes in with it. I don't argue with anybody. I try to, and so I don't know how to kind of express it to you.
No, you don't have to. Can I express it to you?
Absolutely.
And boy, am I tiptoeing when I express this. Okay, so I don't mean this in an emasculating way.
Perfect.
At all. But it sounds like doubt yourself. Now, not that you don't know that you're male, but for some reason, I think the way that manhood was explained to us, I think that there's some unsureties there in certain aspects of it, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're sure of yourself. So I think, at a minimum, just listening to what you're telling me, I think that you and I, and Georgette, because I think you should know too, this is all good information to have,
Mm-hmm.
I think we should cover the basics of it. And we can do it in the time that we have. I think it will be meaningful for you.
Absolutely.
I think it will. Do you have, Snap, do you have any sons?
Yes.
Okay, this will be good. How old are they?
Well, you know what? I have a son that's not biologically mine. He's 24.
Doesn't matter.
I was in a relationship with his mom forever. And then I do have a biological son who's 14.
Well, I have a son that's not my biological son that's 24 too, for the same reasons you do.
Perfect.
I admire you, brother. So let's talk about it for a second. So when you talk about men, and I'm going to divide this into older men, those of us that are over 40, and younger men, everybody else. Okay, everybody else between 18 and 40.
Perfect.
39. So with us, now see, I'm from Philly. I grew up on the streets of Philly. Hadn't always been a therapist, if you know what I mean.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay. But, so, there were certain codes out there, like the whole don't cry, you better know how to fight, reputation, all of these things, In fact, you're going to respect me. You're going to respect me, that type of thing.
Right.
Which I tried to live up to that, I've always been an affiliated guy. I'm not a hard guy. I'm an affiliated guy, But the truth of the matter is, when you're talking about, first of all, we're born, let me back up a little bit. We're born male and female, right? We're not born boy and girl. So a person might not be acculturated to be a boy. A young male
Oh, I
may
see
not,
what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, you might not be acculturated to be a boy. You might not be acculturated to be a girl. It depends on the society you grow up in. So male and female, nobody can take that from you. That's all about genitalia,
Right.
Everything after that becomes a role, a boy and a girl, that's a role with certain behaviors, And I'm speaking more from traditional standards. A man and a woman, those are roles. Mother and father, I always like to say that we all know mothers and fathers per se who have children, but you wouldn't necessarily call them mothers or fathers because the indicated behaviors aren't there. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So what I'm talking about is more of the behaviors associated with the role of men. So one of the first things is not so much you're going to respect me, but that I carry myself, respect how I carry myself. Meaning, and this is where you hear more golden rule stuff, this is really all about treating others as you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
This is really where that is. This is So even if you didn't like me, you wouldn't have anything bad to say about me because you watch how I treat my children.
Right.
You watch how I treat my coworkers. You watch how I treat my wife, all of these type things. So, I carry myself respectably, which lends itself to being treated respectfully,
Right.
if that makes any sense. And
Absolutely.
then you've got that. And then there's moderation. There's moderation in all things. I don't work too hard. I don't play too hard. I do just enough. I don't overwork, So I don't do 12 hours a day in my office 7 days a week because then I'm taking away from something else in my life. There's that moderation piece, temperance, And this is funny because this is where a lot of traditional churches kind of go off the cliff with this. Like, so even let's take something as taboo as even drinking, right? If I enjoy something to drink, I enjoy something to drink. If that's not a stumbling block for me,
Right.
but I do not get drunk. Again, it's all about how I present myself, character. My own character is kind of what I'm speaking to.
Perfect.
And then probably the key pieces to this is sound in faith, sound in love, and sound in perseverance. There's a couple of things that I kind of want to touch on. Have you ever heard the saying that, and I'm not sure what your beliefs are, but this is pretty general, God won't put more on you than you can bear?
I've heard it before. I believed it, and then I doubted it. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you doubted it.
Because sometimes when you're put in a position, or well, at least in my, I don't want to say throw it out there for everybody, but me, I tend to question things.
That's good.
When they're not going right, I guess when they are going right. But at the end of the day, Norman, I think one of the main issues with myself is I think I'm scared of my own success. I think I'm scared of myself and decisions that I make. And I can give you an example by, great opportunities came my way for work, but I would turn them down because I didn't feel I was really good enough for the position, even though they wanted me in the position, kind of sort of things. And so I'm quick to fall back out of something or not participate in something.
I get it.
There we go. And
so, I didn't mean to cut you. So now I got to ask you this. So just, you don't have to give me a whole thing, but what do you generally believe? Do you have religious beliefs, or what are your beliefs? Do you think it's only you, or tell me what you think?
Okay, so here's where I go with that.
Okay.
And not to offend any of my Christian listeners.
It's
or
not
Catholic,
about offending, Snap. It's about your thoughts.
Yeah.
Remember that.
I do believe, right, that, because, again, the Bible was used to go against black folk at first. They used everything in the Bible not to make us believe. And then all of a sudden, now you want us to believe this word. But to me, the way I always saw it was, as a kid, there was always a reward for something, you tend to be good. You do the good behavior. Sure. And if there was consequence, that you're not gonna if you knew the cameras were on you, you're not gonna just steal. But if you knew the store didn't have cameras, you might be tempted to take something you knew you couldn't pay for.
Sure.
And so what I mean by that is, I believed in God because he was the higher being. If you needed to fear God, and if you didn't fear God, something was going to happen. But then I started thinking as I got older, wait a minute, can it just be, because what's the difference between God and Allah, right? Are they the same persons? And then Muslims tell a different story as Christians and Jews. And so I started thinking to myself, even if there isn't a God, maybe as a human, what we do is we place somebody or some kind of spirit up there to look up to, so that spirit or higher being can kind of look down on us to do the right thing, as to just, if there was no God, who would to say that there would be good in this world? There may just be evil. You know what I mean? Because that there's something, and so that's how I'm confused with it. Because
I'm glad you said. This is perfect. So one of the things, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm just speaking, and I'll say that part. I'll take that part. But religion has been used to control people.
Absolutely.
So even though I tell you that I use the word Christian because it's a common word, My foundation for what I do is I'm a follower of Christ. I follow Scripture, so not so much religion, not so much dogma. Now, the reason why I ask you that is this. There's a couple of truths out here. So one of the things I asked you was, do you believe that whole thing about God will not put more on you than you can bear? That's a falsity, because anybody that lives life understands that you do get more than you can bear. In fact, the average person that tells you, hello, how are you doing? And you say, hey, I'm fine, you're lying.
Right. Absolutely.
You're lying. Most
Right.
people, I don't know anybody that's not overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
I don't know anybody that's overwhelmed. I'm gonna bring you in on something else from childhood. You've probably heard, and you may even have repeated this. You can be anything you want to be if you put your mind to it. Ever heard that?
I've heard that as well.
Okay. Georgette, you heard that?
Of course I have.
Course
Some of this
you
stuff I
have.
believe, though. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Can everybody on the team be the quarterback?
No.
No.
And that's
Okay.
right. See?
No. And so the truth. See, now here's the thing. That when I answer both of those questions, and these are things from childhood, because I got to be honest with you, most of my patient load has been told these things.
Right.
They've been told that God will never put more on you than you can bear. So when you believe that, and you're struggling in life, and you know you're struggling, and you're hiding it from people, then you come see people like me and tell me that you feel like a failure, you feel like you're not meeting spec, you're not living up. You know, these are the things people don't talk about. Also, if you could be anything that you wanted to be, if you just put your mind to it, most people come here feeling unaccomplished.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of areas, and so everybody's sitting around saying, I'm okay, I'm fine, yeah, things are going okay with me, but you know they're not going necessarily the best.
And that's me, 100%.
Yes, let me explain something. That's people 100%. That's people 100%.
Right, you're not the only one.
Yeah, everybody is just not showing you that because they're concerned about what other people think. One of the great leveling fields, you know, and that's why I like to say we're just two people talking. I have the experience counseling. You have the experience doing what you're doing. I'd screw up what you were doing.
Right.
Yeah. So you know what? The thing about it is, what we do have is we can't be anything that we want to be if we put our mind to it. But whatever we have the talents for and the skills and abilities to do, we can probably do that better than most people. Right. The other thing that I kind of want to say along that lines is I had an experience. So probably about 2 years ago, my wife had a surgery, and she actually died for about 25 minutes. And then she came back, and she's been quadriplegic ever since. She's slowly healing, slowly gaining everything back. And what I've learned is this. I've learned that it's very, very much not about what we can do. It's about what you're allowed to do, what you're given the ability to do. And the thing about it is, even with these positions that you're talking about, it's never going to be just you. We've always had help, whether that help came through us failing or whether we got into a position and we flourished. Have you experienced both of those?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so these positions that you get into are the same way. If someone thinks high enough of you to open that door for you, they see something you don't see.
Right.
They're not just rolling the dice saying, we're going to get this kid to try. No, it doesn't work like that. They see something that you have that you haven't recognized. But you almost have to go into this like you're never really alone. You're never really alone. I think a lot of that may not clear because of maybe you may feel like it's only you because of the religious ambiguity, you know. And again, I tap on that word religion lightly because I'm not really into that, not in that way. I follow principles, and when I'm in sessions, I advise on principles that'll bring clarity to life. Can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is for both of you guys. So we've all had relationships, right?
Perfect.
Okay. Built on love and trust, right?
Perfect.
Okay. So not counting the relationships that you're in right now, how many times has that been successful?
Okay. See, okay. Can I throw this out at you? Okay.
Please.
So I do have work relationships with people, but outside of that work door, all of those relationships come to a close. And then I'll turn around the very next day, put a smile on my face, and I'm right back into. So it's like I can be one way at work, but as soon as I walk out that parking lot, I'm a totally different person.
Yeah, but
Yep.
I guess the biggest question
Let me
is...
clarify.
Yeah, go
Let me
ahead.
clarify. I'm speaking about intimate relationships.
Okay, so I've been in. Yeah, so this is, and the good thing is, so this is how I know I've matured. I've grown as a person because in this 10 years, I haven't cheated, and I could have been in a relationship for 2 months and was cheating already. But I'm.
Okay.
So I think I've grown in that part of life.
Right.
To know that even just to step out like that is not even worth it, because at the end of the day, I'm just putting myself. And then, first of all, the cheat is expensive. Then I'm being sneaky, and then I got to make up my own lies.
But notice how you're only focusing on one aspect of the
On
relationship.
me, right.
No, but you're focusing on cheating. I think he's even just talking about in generally. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's talking about generally speaking. You're focusing, and Snap doesn't realize he does this. He goes and hones in on one thing, but it's a bigger umbrella that maybe he's not willing to look at, or he just isn't able to look at for whatever, because there's blockers on.
Another thing is, I know I'm not the most romantic person, and because I'm not, I don't do the little things. I know I need to work on that, but I just
Yep.
it's
Let me
hard.
broaden this. Let me broaden out a little bit. Here's my question for you, Snap. How do you do in the area of trusting?
I that's my problem. I trust everybody, and a lot of the times it came back to kick me in the ass.
Yeah, exactly. So I want you to think on this, and this is something to think about. So we got all of us are human beings, and from the construct that I come from, we're all fallen human beings. We are in charge of that, just like we're in charge of being black. We had nothing to do with that. We were born into that.
Right.
So we're all fallen human beings. We make decisions, right? Now, most people, however they relate to it, like you said, they have an idea of something's out there bigger than I am, okay? But they may have cultivated that, or they may not have. So there's something out there that's bigger than I am, essentially knows more than I do. But we make decisions in life every day. And do you know what those decisions are based on?
Trust?
Well,
Because I'm going to say fear.
no, not really. No, well, I mean, that's kind of an answer. We make our decisions based on emotion and desire. Unless we're forced to make decisions, we make them based on emotion and desire. So this could be any emotion. This could be fear, doubt, certainty. But we say, I feel this way, so I'm going to do it. Or I want this or desire this, so I'm going to do this thing. Or I don't desire this, or I don't feel it, so I'm not going to do it. Do you
And
see
that's
what
me.
I'm saying?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Okay, that's what we use to make decisions. Now, here's the thing. We want to make decisions. We live in a world today where we talk about our truth. I've heard that a lot, That's not something, that's not a foundation of what I counsel on, because I don't counsel, and no disrespect to anybody, I don't counsel on truth being relative, because that can be confusing.
There we go.
How does anybody know where they are? How do you set your GPS if all of us have our own version of true north?
Right. There we go.
That's a scary thing.
Right.
So when you're looking at what we make our decisions based on, these emotions and desires, these things are called variables because they change all the time.
There we go.
So now here's my question. If the very thing, which let me say is not truth, that we are basing our decisions on is variable, would that not produce instability in all of our ways? Do you feel what I'm saying?
I'm trying to, but this
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, question.
Yeah, no, because I'm trying to think about, so you're saying if we, basically us making decisions based off emotion is causing the instability that we feel.
Absolutely,
Got
because here's the thing. Your emotions and your desires change all the time.
They sure do.
Mm-hmm.
They sure do. But what if, even thinking about like emotional suppression with Snap. So just tying it back to Snap, part of me just even wonders, because just even hearing how he talks and hearing how he has talked, do you even desire more than what you can get your hands on that's not going to be difficult, right? Like, I think Snap admitted he chooses the easy way out. And so if there's any type of effort that has to be made, Snap is not going that, he's not going that route at all. Even if it might be the best route for him, he's not going that route.
So see, here's the thing. I think probably because you perceive this to be harder than it is.
Right.
Because the one thing that I perceive is you want to feel like you are on solid ground. And I believe that you want to feel that more than anything.
Absolutely.
But if it looks like a moving carrot, you know what I mean? I don't know if you're going to be so motivated to chase that carrot.
There we go.
But it's not a moving carrot. For example, when you brought up the trust thing, because human beings, I'll go a step further, because human beings make decisions based on emotion and desire, and both of those are variable, there's a scientific term. It's called reliability. Reliability has two components. So the room that you're in, if you hit the light switch, you expect the lights to go off.
Absolutely.
If you hit that switch and those lights don't go off, there goes reliability.
There we go.
So also, now let's take this to real life. All of us may have had a best friend. And if you have had a best friend, chances are you have had a best friend who has betrayed you. Okay.
Or you,
Yeah, we've all had
on the
that.
receiving end, or maybe you were on the giving end because you didn't know better.
Yeah,
I've been on both sides.
Yep, both of those. We've had those. So the thing about trust is this: whatever you trust in. So for me, what I've done is once I've gotten rid of the religious dogma, once I've looked, I'm going to leave my info with you, just in case you want to follow up on this offline. You know.
Absolutely.
But once you find out truth, I found out that truth transcends religion. I've had atheists in front of me. I've had Buddhists in front of me. I've had people from all walks of life in front of me. And when you're talking about something that's true, it's not something that can really be debated. That's what makes it true.
Right.
So what I'm telling you about when we talk about people, for example, trust. Trust is not something that you can invest in a human. I know that sounds cynical. I know it sounds bad.
No. I don't think it sounds cynical. But we do. But we were naturally taught to do that.
We were, even though it keeps not working.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
But I'd rather not use that energy, not trust you. I'd rather trust you until you give me a reason not to, and that's what I go.
But I almost think, again, I think that goes back to your easy way out, Snap. That's your easy way out, because if. Oh, it's almost kind of like people that are downright, and I always get on my friend about this. She grew up in the South, Southern Virginia, and we go off of what we were taught to believe about religion, but you can't even get her to remotely even hear other perspectives on religion, because now that means doesn't mean she has to question, but then she might start questioning what she was taught, and if she has to remotely even think that there's not a God out there from what she was taught and what she believed in her growing up in the church, it's kind of like, you're not gonna make me have to restart all over again from my beliefs, right? But me, I swear, I'm like, I'll read the Quran because I'm curious. I'll try, meditation. I'll try Buddhism. For me, it was different, even though I went to Catholic school when I was younger, and there was a lot of, hypocrisy in that. But I think for Snap, it's the easy way out. And so, the one thing, and you made this good point because I want to transition to something else before we, kind of come to a close. The one thing that you said was putting trust in other people. I have a friend that's going through a lot right now, one of my guy friends, and he struggles with toxic masculinity. And I mean, like if he feels challenged or, diminished in any way, like, he's the man of the house or in the relationship. And, a lot of that stems from what he saw or didn't see, or what was given to him or what wasn't given to him with his father, his relationship with his father, all this other stuff. But the one thing that I've noticed was when you take your trust out of another human being and you fill yourself up and you relieve expectations from others, the freedom that comes with that. So now, Snap, I can look at you and release you from doing any harm to me, because now I'm not even allowing you to get to that point, right? Not because you can't not because you know you're not going to do whatever you're going to do that makes sense for you, but now I no longer have to look at Snap and be like, damn, I'm mad at Snap because he did this to me. It's like, you know what, Snap has different things going on. That's fine. That's where Snap is. That's not where I am. That doesn't mean I have to dismiss Snap. That doesn't mean I have to cancel Snap. Doesn't mean I have to throw Snap away. I figure out where that fits in my energy space, and then I operate from there, whether I want to spend more time around you and your energy, or I want to, move on from that. So when you relieve and release the trust from people, Snap, I think you'll get your power back. You're giving power to a lot of different people when you meet them immediately.
Absolutely.
You're deflating your own tires. Hold on. And let me just tie this up real quick. So what I wanted to say real quick is with humans. So when we look at trust, what we look at is we look at this predictability element. I've shared a confidence with them for 20 years. They've never broken it. They've proven their trust. But there's 2 points to reliability or trust. Predictability is only one. It has to be predictability, and predictability without fail. And that's where a fallen human being will never meet that, because there will always be the possibility of failure. And another way to look at trust is expectation. We expect that a girlfriend or boyfriend will never cheat. We expect that everybody has, some moral decency. We expect that a mother's going to be like this, a father's going to be like this. And we're getting these things, we're getting these expectations out of thin air and not getting them from truth. That was my point.
Can we also wrap up the point about toxic masculinity and
yes,
how that's
please.
more damaging? Because emotional suppression, Snap, which you are a student in that class, and you have been a student in that class for so many years, right?
Time.
But I think a lot of black men don't realize, and even men in general, but I think it's black men that are more affected, right? Because the black man has to, black men were emasculated in front of their wives, right? In slavery,
Absolutely.
women getting raped, like their wives getting raped in front of them. And so where can we go from here with toxic masculinity and people really understanding that, masculinity comes in so many different forms. The hyper-masculine attitude or energy doesn't really serve the black men, right? Oh, this man is dressing like this. He's gay. But why does he have to be gay? Why can't he be free, right? Like, this is what he chooses to do. This is what he chooses to wear. A lot of times I would go back and forth with one of my guy friends that is super hyper-masculine with his commentary, because I'm just like, in your mind, you need to address what your ideas and notions are about masculinity. And because it says the man that talks about another man and what he does, I think it says more so about the man that's talking about him more than it does the man that they're talking about. And so I feel like people need to address what's going on inside of themselves, right? Like, are there insecurities that you're not willing to address? Because a lot of times, Norman, the projections come out, right? The people that talk about other people are insecure about the things with themselves. And so you mask it by like, oh my gosh, they're this, they're that. But it's like, well, no, you start calling out things about people that you dislike within yourself. And so I just wanted to just bring that up and kind of tie the knot and get into that and how people can find you. So go ahead.
Okay, so you mentioned that, and it's good points, that during slavery, when you talk about the whole nuclear family was broken up, children sold off, men emasculated in front of their wives, basically no control over anything. So one of the things I do like to point out when it comes to black men in particular, there's always a lot of comparisons to other races, and we're the only ones that really had that American slavery system deal.
This is true. That's true.
So and we can even come past that. We can go to the sharecropping stage, where you're basically cheated and made to look a fool out of in front of your family, and we can bring that all the way up to the 70s when, because of redlining, because of ghettos, because of job disparities and all these things, and no affirmative acts and no hope. The welfare system had it at one time where you couldn't be in the crib with your family. You had to be out. You couldn't be there with your wife and your kids. So this is the other. It's been really recent, and it still goes on. So as black males, we're a little different in that way. A lot of the hypermasculinity comes from never really being, I want to give a genesis on it, it comes from never really being a power player. It comes from being the step and fetch it to the world, because even during slavery, and this is no knock against the sisters, but, the black woman was desired. during slavery, okay? Desired. Not saying that she had a much better life, but there was probably a little bit more say, if you will. A little, and I'm trying to tiptoe on that. But what I'm saying is, these are things now that the black male in America has never really been in a position of power. And so now all the misogyny, all of everything can only happen in the house now. This is the only place I can have power.
Right.
You know, so I'm gonna beat the hell out of my kids.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna use whatever
to stake their claim. Right.
Yeah, to get respect.
And
this is still happening. This is still happening. You know, I'm gonna get respect in society. So now you got the hard guy, you got the bad boy. You know what I mean? This is all about getting respect anyway. You know, any attention is good attention.
Well, can I throw in something real quick, too? The other thing is, too, about, and there are women, and I always say this, and I make sure and I advocate and say this, that there are also black women that they aid, they exacerbate the whole toxic masculinity as well, or the emasculation of the black man. And so that's in itself ends up being something as well, right? So then you have women being like, oh, you're a bitch, oh, you're gay, you're And it's just like, really? Like, why are we saying that? And I would always say to my guy friend that's going through some stuff, I was like, listen, if there was an organization, I said this to you too, Norma, I was like, if there was an organization to dismantle toxic masculinity and really have an advocacy where women were advocating, and it didn't have to be women, but just people advocating and dismantling that and really supporting men emotionally, I would be the president, I would be the CEO of that company, I would be on the front lines, because I see it and I continue to see it firsthand how damaging it is, and it bothers me to my core, because now it's permeating, right, and some of their interactions with me or even other people, and they don't realize, right? And so again, like that power player analogy is such a great, I didn't even think about that, but it makes so much sense, because we even do that in relationships. When I feel like I'm losing control or losing power, like, because I always want to be in control, I start to act out in certain ways. Well, now you're talking about a bigger dynamic that even black men may not even know they have walked into. That's kind of, you know, happening in their lives as well. And so
that's a good point.
Yeah. So,
yep.
But oh, go ahead. Because I want to make sure you and Snap connect.
No, we definitely can do that. Last point on the toxic masculinity is actually a black nuclear family problem. It's a black nuclear family problem, and the way that we deal with this is it starts small. It starts like with brothers like me and Snap connecting. You know, not so much that I know everything, but I know enough to sharpen my brother up.
Yep.
And then he's going to know enough to sharpen his kids up. And really, that it becomes a forest fire of sorts. I'm thinking more like you're thinking. I'm trying to affect change in the men in my area. You know, I think I had spoken to you about that. I really feel called to start that, because there's so many falsehoods about what manhood is, about what it isn't. You know, and I'm going to tell you what, the real man quietly influences his family by his behavior, by what he does and what he doesn't do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Norman, there's so much more, but I thank you so much for coming on and being available. How can they find out more information about you, or just find you online if they want to talk to you and just kind of share with you, brother?
You know what? Now, you would think I would have my. So you can go to my website.
Okay.
So I do have a website. It's www.resurgencefamily.com. I've got a lot of videos on there. Got other ways to get in touch with me. I can also be reached via email at norman@resurgencefamily.com.
And I'll add this in our show notes as well, so that it will be easy for them to find. So I'll make sure it's very easy for them to find. Norman, real quick, there's a book I want to tell you about, because I bought it for my guy friend. He doesn't know it yet, and I also bought it for me because I'm an advocate. So it's called Cry Like a Man. There was a guy, his first name is Jason, but he has this collective in Detroit called the Cave of Adullam, and where he's raising young black men, young black boys to be, emotionally mature and different things of that nature, and really being emotionally developed, and I think it's such an amazing thing. So he just released his book in January, and I'll send you the information about that, but I'm excited to read it. But he basically talks about various things, addressing toxic masculinity and just different things that he dealt with when the shift happened for him as well. So
absolutely,
cry like a man.
It sounds good. And Snap, brother, I will keep you in my prayers. I'm going to drop my information. Please reach out to me offline, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Norman. You have a good day.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Snap, what's your final comments about that?
Listen.
I mean, that's only scratching the surface. There's so much more.
I am going to reach out to Norman. I'm not going to say it's going to be tomorrow, but I know I'm going to reach out to Norman because sometimes it really does take somebody from the outside looking in to really let you know that there is something going on. And although I know that there's something going on, I don't approach it like I come at people wrong. I'm not a killer. I don't abuse people verbally. I know that there's some things going on, but I also know that I'm an actor when I'm in certain places, and then I know I could be myself in others. Oh man, that could be tough. And I guess the conflict between the two can kind of spill over a little bit. That's what he's talking about, that wavy water. Listen, people, y'all can find us on Twitter and IG at Black Nuance Pod. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify at Black Nuance Pod. Email us at blacknuancepod@gmail.com. You see what I'm doing.
Yeah, Snap is shaking, got the jitterbugs over here.
My palms sweating.
Snap, how do you feel overall? Were you okay with this slight intervention? Was it helpful?
I'm all right because, again, this doesn't hurt me. This helps me.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if it's up to me, I'm going to avoid it.
I know.
And I know that about me. And so by you bringing this to the table, there is no avoidance. But I'm going to tell you, my palms are sweating. My eyes got
I'm going to make sure I give him, because the fact that you're not going to call me tomorrow, I'm going to give him your contact info.
Yeah.
Because my concerns, and although I can't force you to do anything, Snap, at least he could be proactive and keeping in touch with you. Because I don't know if I trust that you're going to really call him. That's not trying to be funny, but you even said it yourself. You avoid.
I will.
But if someone stays on you. But when I asked you to do the intervention, you said you didn't say no.
I didn't. No.
Right.
Because I didn't have to go nowhere for it. It came to me.
See, the easy way out. We just talked about that. Snap, how can they find you?
On IG at Rob_O_Snap. On Twitter at RobOSnap.
You can find me at Georgette on Twitter as my first name, and then Instagram, Georgette Star with 2 R's. My website as well, GeorgettePierre.com. No, I'm not Haitian. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, but shout out to all my Caribbean people, my Haitian people. No, because I was at an event, and they were like, oh, they started speaking in Creole. I was like, I don't understand a word you're saying, unfortunately. But no, big up to all my Caribbean people, Haitian people, all that jazz. So on that note, another episode down, episode 26, Snap. I appreciate you. And I'm glad you were down for the cause.
Thank you.
Okay, peace.